better play that ferry music. I've been waiting all morning for this. It's the one saving grace of getting up this early. Come on, ferry music. Loving the ferry music. Woo! My God, is it early and is it cold here at 7 a.m. in winter in Japan. But if there's anything I've learned in all my years in Japan, exploring, checking stuff out, hiking, it's that if you want a really unique, authentic experience, open up Google Maps, find the islands nearest to you, pick one, and find out how to get there. Because I guarantee you, you'll find something cool. You'll have a cool experience. You'll meet someone, you'll find a hike, you'll find some landmark or something like that. So take my word for it, it's really awesome. And that is what I'm doing today. Today I'm on Sanuki Hiroshima. The island is known as Hiroshima Island, but in order to avoid confusion with the better known city of Hiroshima, this island is colloquially known, I can't talk when my mouth is frozen solid. It's colloquially known as Sanuki Hiroshima for the region, the Sanuki region that it's in. There is some really interesting history on the island that hopefully I'll be able to show you a little bit of. It's got a wicked hike up to that peak, which I'm about to take you on. And it's got some hidden treasures in store for us today as well. So off we go. All right, here we go. So this is the mountain we're going to be going up. It's called Otozan. And there's a desert on the mountain. I don't know, let's check it out. The people of this island are desperately and have been desperately trying to attract tourists, but it's just so out of the way that they're not really gonna attract an appreciable number of people. But they've created all these awesome signs and invested all this money into getting people to come out here. And I actually, once on my way back to the ferry, I was rushing because I was about to miss it to get back to the mainland, and one of the local people who works at the city little office over there started chasing after me, trying to give me some flyers and pamphlets about the island that I had just finished exploring. They really aren't sure what they're doing, but it's cute. I didn't have my camera on in time, but I was just walking up towards the mountain and a local guy came up on his scooter and was just blown away that I was over here so early in the morning. But the guy had picked some togarashi, some of these little peppers, and he's like, here, have some. Anyways, this is what I'm talking about, man. You want a really authentic Japanese experience, just come explore some of these islands. Gotta love Japanese hikes. They have a logbook, some pens, and even a cute little stamp to commemorate your journey to the mountain. Off we go. Okay, we're starting off real steep already, but as you can see, we're getting into the weeds. So behind me down there is Enora Bay, where I came in on my ferry. It's the main harbor that ferries arrive at, but there is one more on the island that you can use. Hiroshima Island is another one of these Shiwaku Islands, about which I did another video recently on Honjima, a nearby island, which was the main island or the main seat of power in this area. The Shiwaku Islands were, as I'll actually create a link to my other video and I'll put it in the description as well. But these were ruled by pirates at one time. Pirates being a loose translation of the Japanese word. But this island, actually, Hiroshima, was the only one that wasn't under the control of those said pirates. So it kind of has its own independent spirit and culture to it. The island also has some pretty interesting history. Actually, in 1878, a British man by the name of Richard Henry Brunton, I believe that's how you pronounce it, led a survey party to this area of Japan, and one of the places they stopped was Hiroshima Island. Unfortunately, at the time, one of their sailors, a man by the name of Frank Tuvey Lake, fell ill. They're not really sure. The records don't really say exactly what his illness was. I don't think anyone knew. But he got seriously ill down in that bay. They were anchored off the shore. And unfortunately, he didn't make it. He died. And he was buried on the island. And at the 150-year anniversary of his death, the locals came out and held a ceremony by his grave. And they restored his grave. They've actually upkept his gravestone for all these years as a sign of respect, which is really cool. Bit of a scramble. Ugh. You know, I will say the trail conditions look better than the last time I was up here. I think someone's been up here and done some clearing, which is nice. It's not a whole lot of incentive for people around here, but glad to see that someone cares. There's the peak up over that ridge. Oh, almost there. It's just a straight, brutal uphill climb from way down there. Just zigzagging up these mountains. Really cool though. Awesome scenery. Pay attention to the kind of brush that's covering those mountains, if you can see that. And we'll compare it to the other side in a minute, once I get over the ridge. All right, up we go. Let's finish this damn thing. Well, looky what I found. Torn up ground. That's the signature work of wild boar. So they're up here, that's for sure. I actually coincidentally did a video a while back on another one of these Shiwaku Islands, not Honjima, the island I was talking about earlier, but a different one, in search of wild boar. I'll also put that link in the description. But they're everywhere. They're all over Japan. They've infested everything. I talk about it a lot there, so I won't mention it too much right now. But needless to say, they're on almost every island. The ones that they haven't made it to, eventually they will swim to. They're native, but now that there are no natural predators, they've really just expanded and exploded in terms of population, pretty much unchecked. They're pretty much a menace, I'd say. And unfortunately, it's really hard for people to get a license to hunt them. So the problem persists. I have eaten them before, though. Certain restaurants and local festivals will actually serve wild boar in a variety of dishes. And they're pretty tasty, surprisingly, for how disgusting they look. Okay, so we've reached the aforementioned desert from the sign. I'll let you be the judge. Let's see here. Would you consider this to be a desert? Personally, I think it's a pretty generous designation. It is really cool though. Suddenly the mountain just opens up and there's all this sand and sandstone. Bunch of really cool little formations. Some of which I find a little bit perplexing. Let's see if we can make it over here. Whoa! This guy right here, it's just got this flat slab. Doesn't look that natural, but who knows, maybe it is. Because here's another one that's kind of diagonal, and then you can see from this rock up here, there's a crack along the middle, so I would imagine it just kind of happens naturally. Japan actually doesn't have any real deserts, so they're always trying to designate certain areas that look kind of sandy or barren as deserts in Japan. I think as a tourist, not tourist trap, but you know, an oddity for tourists to come visit. The most famous one that I know of is Totori sand dunes. They're up in the north on the Japan seaside. And it's really just maybe, you know, a couple acres of sand near the beach. But a lot of Japanese people will cite that as a desert in Japan if you ask them. But I'm not sure that geologists would agree. All right, we made it to the top of the main peak. Despite all those beautiful views earlier, sometimes this is what you get at the top. But it doesn't take away from the sense of victory, now does it? Okay, it does a little bit. Okay, so we just made it over the ridge. We're on the far side now. You can see all those exposed rocks over there, which are pretty interesting. There's a couple quarries over there where they take some of that rock, I believe it's granite, and they sell it off to other areas of Japan, or possibly abroad, I don't actually know. But that's pretty much all they've got going on the islands these days. There's still a lot of fishermen out here, and there's a little bit of tourism, just a trickle. But this is one of the, I guess, worst examples of depopulation that you can see in Japan. And I'm gonna make another video on that possibly in the future, if you'd be interested in seeing that. I've got a friend who lives on this island. He's a younger guy, one of the few who actually live on the island that are below the age of 70. And he has a lot of insight into the challenges that islands like this face in the face of dramatic population drops. It's basically a steep decline that's been happening for a couple decades now. And it's gotten to a point where there's really not enough people on the island to maintain it or to sustain any sort of community or local government. So it's almost an abandoned place, really. It's really interesting. I'll talk about the plight for sure in the future if that's something you want. If so, please mention it in the comments. Okay, reached a bit of a crossroads. This way goes to some other district, and this way goes to another mountain peak. So let's head over. Okay, so as you can see, the terrain has changed quite dramatically now that we've gone over the other side of the mountain. Remember earlier when I said to note the low-lying brush on the eastern side of the island? Well, according to a source from 1873, it's called the China Sea Directory. It says, the eastern hills are covered with brushwood, but the western ridges are thickly wooded. In the ravines, the sides of which are rocky precipices, numerous deer are found. So first of all, I want to say that they're pretty spot on about the eastern side being brushwood and the western side being thickly wooded. However, I'm sad to say there are no longer any deer on this island that I know of. Deer are usually pretty easy to run into or spot, and I've talked to some of the locals, and from what I can tell, all the deer are just now gone. I don't know if they were hunted to extinction or if they were transported off the island. I have no idea. But it is an interesting little note from a real legitimate historical source. Okay, so if this little abandoned shrine isn't cool enough, check this out. I got something special for you. First time I came here, I totally missed this. There's the peak from earlier, and there's one of those quarries I was talking about. That same source from earlier, the one from 1873, describes the island of Hiroshima as follows. The outline of Hiroshima is very irregular, and its sharp rocky ridges are very conspicuous. The summit of the island, which presents southward the appearance of an almost perpendicular cliff, is 990 feet above the sea. Well, as to the perpendicular cliff description, I'd again say they were pretty spot on. I am not getting any closer. Thank you very much. That is absolutely terrifying. All right, I think that's pretty much gonna do it for me today. It was an amazing hike. I love this island. It doesn't matter how many times I come here, it's really cool. Like I said earlier, I really recommend you find some islands, go out to them. You won't be disappointed. It's a really good time. I'm gonna finish up my day with a little bit of tom yum soup flavored instant ramen, the food of choice for any self-respecting hiker in Japan. There's a million flavors. They're really awesome. Please try them. And I think I'm actually gonna spice it up with one of these togarashi that one of the locals gave me. That should make for a pretty interesting meal. Anyways, if you have any questions or anything to add to the conversation, if you've been to any really cool islands in Japan, I'd like to hear about them. Please leave a comment in the comment section. And if you're interested in this sort of content, as always, please consider liking and subscribing. And finally, I'm always open to new suggestions for videos or video ideas related to the outdoors or Japan. So please throw some suggestions my way. Anyways, take care, and until next time.